Welcome to Pishlen's Psychological Channel, where we're going to peek behind the curtain of the most important topic, manipulating emotions. When people hear the phrase manipulating emotions, they often think of something dark, almost like controlling others for selfish gain. But manipulation simply means influencing, and emotions are one of the strongest levers in human behavior. Understanding how emotions can be guided, shifted, or shaped is not only about control, but also about awareness. Because whether we like it or not, we are constantly being influenced by others, and in return, we are influencing them. Timon Krause, who is known for exploring the psychology of influence, shows how emotion is the central key. To really understand manipulation, we have to first understand how emotions work inside us. Emotions are not random sparks. They are signals from the brain and body that tell us how to act in a certain moment. For example, fear makes us more cautious and attentive. Joy makes us open and trusting. Anger pushes us to defend boundaries. Sadness draws others closer to support us. Every emotional state alters our perception and decisions. When you are angry, you're more likely to interpret someone's neutral words as offensive. When you're in love, you overlook flaws and exaggerate strengths. These shifts mean that whoever manages to steer your emotional state gains influence over how you see reality. This is why advertising, politics, and even personal relationships often target emotions first and logic second. A simple everyday example is how movie directors manipulate emotions. Imagine sitting in a theater. The screen shows a dark alley. The music grows tense. You don't know what's coming, but you feel fear rising. Nothing has actually happened yet, but your emotions are already leading you. That's manipulation through sound, timing, and association. Now, compare this to a politician giving a speech. Instead of listing raw facts, they use stories of ordinary people struggling or succeeding. They know that statistics rarely move us, but emotions do. If they can make you feel angry at injustice, proud of your country, or afraid of losing security, they can guide your choices without directly telling you what to do. On a smaller scale, emotional manipulation happens in everyday conversations. Think about a friend who says, "You never call me anymore. I guess I don't matter to you." That sentence is loaded. It's not a neutral request for contact. It's designed to trigger guilt. Guilt then motivates you to change your behavior, maybe to call them more often. Here we see how words are used not just to communicate, but to deliberately spark a specific feeling. The person may or may not be conscious of what they're doing, but the effect is the same. Your emotions are shifted, and your actions follow. Another common emotional trigger is flattery. When someone compliments you in a genuine or exaggerated way, you naturally feel valued. That feeling of being appreciated makes you more likely to agree with them or return the favor. Salespeople often use this, starting with, "I can tell you're someone who really knows quality," or, "You seem like a smart person who values good decisions." That praise, whether true or not, lowers resistance and increases cooperation. Notice here that the manipulation is not about changing facts, but about framing emotions in a way that guides behavior. Fear and urgency are even stronger. Have you ever seen a limited time offer online? Or heard a salesperson say, "If you don't act now, this opportunity will disappear"? That's not always true. But the suggestion creates anxiety, which leads to faster decisions. Fear of missing out, what psychologists call loss aversion, is a deeply rooted emotional bias. People are more motivated to avoid losses than to seek gains. So, manipulation often comes down to highlighting what you might lose, rather than what you might win. Even in relationships, phrases like, "If you really loved me, you would do this," plant fear of loss as a motivator. Understanding how this works is not about becoming paranoid, but about becoming aware. Once you notice the patterns, you're less vulnerable to them. For instance, next time you're about to make a rushed purchase because of a countdown timer, stop and ask, "Would I still want this tomorrow?" That simple pause breaks the emotional manipulation. Similarly, when guilt or flattery is used, recognizing the tactic helps you separate your emotions from the request being made. But let's also turn the lens inward. We all manipulate emotions, often unconsciously. Parents do this with children. "If you finish your homework, I'll be so proud of you." Teachers use encouragement. "I know you can do better. I believe in you." Partners use reassurance. "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." None of these are negative. In fact, they show how guiding emotions can strengthen relationships, build confidence, and motivate growth. The ethical difference lies in intention. Manipulation becomes toxic when it's about control, selfish gain, or deception. It becomes positive influence when it's about support, cooperation, and care. A subtle but powerful way to manipulate emotions is through body language and tone of voice. Imagine someone telling you, "I'm fine," in a flat tone with crossed arms. You don't believe the words, you feel the emotion behind them. Humans are wired to read emotional cues beyond language. This is why a smile, a pause, or even silence can be more persuasive than a long argument. Skilled communicators use this to their advantage. By controlling their tone, speed, and gestures, they shape how others feel about the message. Think about a leader who speaks calmly during a crisis. Their calmness lowers panic in the group. Or a comedian who pauses before the punchline. The silence builds tension, which makes the laughter stronger. Both are forms of emotional guidance. Another interesting technique is framing. The same fact can be presented in different emotional lights. For example, telling a patient that 90% of people survive this surgery feels reassuring, while saying 10% of people die from this surgery feels frightening, even though the numbers are identical. The way information is framed determines the emotional response, and thus the decision that follows. People who know this can influence outcomes simply by changing emphasis. Marketers, leaders, and negotiators rely on this constantly. What makes emotional manipulation so effective is that emotions bypass rational analysis. Your brain processes feelings faster than logic. This is why jump scares in movies work even when you know they're coming. It's also why arguments don't always change minds, but stories and images do. Once emotion takes the driver's seat, logic becomes the passenger. That's not a weakness. It's human nature. Emotions evolve to help us act quickly in uncertain situations. But it also means that if we're not mindful, others can use that shortcut to steer us. Consider how social media amplifies this. Platforms are designed to push content that triggers strong emotions: anger, outrage, admiration, or envy, because those emotions keep us engaged. A calm, balanced post doesn't spread as fast as one that makes you furious or amazed. This means our emotional buttons are constantly being pressed, often without us noticing. In such an environment, learning how emotions can be manipulated is not optional, it's necessary. Otherwise, we risk being led by impulses that someone else has engineered. One important point to recognize is that emotional manipulation doesn't have to be direct. Sometimes it works through association. For example, if someone always delivers bad news in the same office room, you may start feeling anxious just walking into that room. Advertisers use this too. They show happy families enjoying a product, so your brain links the product with happiness. It doesn't matter if the product itself creates happiness or not. The association is enough to influence your feelings. Over time, these emotional links can shape long-term preferences and behaviors. So, how can we use this knowledge responsibly? First, by becoming aware of our own emotions in the moment. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, and why? If you're feeling pressured, fearful, or overly flattered, consider whether someone else benefits from that feeling. Second, practice slowing down decisions when possible. Time gives logic a chance to catch up with emotion. Third, recognize that you too have influence. Use it to uplift rather than control. For example, instead of making a colleague feel guilty for a mistake, inspire them by showing confidence in their ability to improve. Instead of using fear to motivate, use vision and encouragement. In the end, manipulation of emotions is not just a trick for magicians, marketers, or psychologists. It's part of everyday human interaction. We all do it, and we're all exposed to it. The key is not to reject it, but to understand it deeply. When you understand how emotions shape behavior, you gain two things: protection against unwanted influence, and power to influence others more ethically. The real skill lies in guiding emotions while respecting people's autonomy. That's what separates destructive manipulation from constructive influence. Join the journey, subscribe today, and grow with us.